This podcast is rated R for restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian.
Guys, you know what's scarier than Halloween?
What? Well, I know what happened. We went to try to watch this movie, and then we just never came back.
That's right.
Right.
Being late for a podcast.
Wait, we do a podcast still?
Yeah, that's what.
Is that right?
Wait
Is
a
that-
minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Maybe I gotta check.
Is this our stand-up?
Hey,
Wait a
yeah,
minute.
are we? Is this our weekly? Yeah, is this our 15 minutes?
Yeah.
What,
Okay, well,
so
here's-
what's on the docket for today? We got sprint planning. Who's
That's
up
right.
next?
You guys are watching a movie that I forced you to watch because it was October, but now it's November.
That
So we're
is
kind of
right.
off schedule a tad, but we might continue watching horror movies to keep with the schedule.
Hey, we're at Thanksgiving now, but
Yeah.
hey, whatever. We're
Well,
still
it was
doing
close.
horror
It was a
movies.
close call. You said that this stopped people, from watching horror movies. This stopped me from wanting to do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's fair game
All
before
right.
Thanksgiving because nothing's scarier than heart disease.
Look, I say it like this: if they've got the Christmas trees out before Thanksgiving, we can keep doing horror films
That's
until
fair.
after.
I saw on
Thanksgiving.
HBO today that the 10th most watched movie of this weekend was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. What the hell,
I mean,
guys?
it's such
It's
a
not
good
that
one, though.
time of year yet,
I mean,
though.
you know what I really liked was the Vegas one. That was a good one.
I'm more of a fan of the original. Wally
Oh,
World,
okay.
the whole trip to
Okay,
the
Wally World. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Randy Quaid in his best role since, well, I guess Independence Day was pretty legendary as well.
Yeah, it was really legendary.
Yeah.
But he sacrificed himself for all of us.
We're watching potentially one of the scariest movies of all time. John asked for this. So, John, you get to go first.
Yeah. Okay,
And so
fine.
we're watching Hereditary. It came out in 2018. This movie was the highest grossing A24 movie until last year when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out. It was kind of a smash success. Ari Aster directed it. It was the first thing he ever directed. It's on the list
First
of scariest.
movie.
First
We have to go into
movie.
that again?
Yeah. First movie he ever directed. He wrote the screenplay as well.
Yep.
Yeah, this movie's on the list of the top scariest movies of all time. And John wanted to watch it because I guess the reputation is out there. And
It has a good reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sooner or later, I wanted to watch it.
so, what'd you think?
I guess spoilers. I don't know if anybody should see this or not.
Oh, come on.
It's intense.
All right, so I guess
it-
do the
I
quick
mean,
reviews real quick first.
Well, there's I just
spoilers?
think the emotions are really intense. Not just the horror parts, but there's some really intense family grief
Mhm.
that is so well done that it's really upsetting. So again, this is incredible. Quite an experience. I wouldn't necessarily say that people shouldn't watch it, but it is intense. And
It is.
I just think that so if you can handle a lot of intensity, then yeah, it's worth checking out because there's a lot of stuff that's really well done.
Well, and it's like
yeah.
intense as far as the supernatural, but it's also intense as far as just like family bullshit.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The
You
drama.
know,
You
like-
talked about this with The Exorcist, Denny. I don't know the genre. Where you see like a good chunk of the film is drama,
Mhm.
and then it escalates into horror. But this
It
certainly
follows
hits
like the
that there
exact
for sure.
same formula in terms of like timing, I guess.
Right, right.
As The Exorcist
You
had.
definitely
Slow
could
and
divide.
steady.
You
Yeah.
could divide
Yeah.
this film into two pretty clear kind of parts in terms of like sort of the theme or the genre, even in a sense. There's like some there's certainly a definite back end that's all out horror, and then the front end is more a lot of psychological family drama stuff. And
Said like a
it's,
true software developer guy.
yeah, back end.
Back end.
Right.
Yeah, a lot
Okay.
of back end work.
It's I tell you, this movie is a full stack 3-tier movie. Is what you got here.
Yeah, exactly.
And also,
Right.
pre-spoilers, this movie's definitely going to go down as like one of the best horror movies of all
Yeah.
time for the next 50
Yeah.
years or whatever. It's going to
Yeah,
be talked
I
about
can
forever.
see that. I can see that.
Yeah,
So,
and it is
yeah.
because of the performances and stuff. So I don't know
Yep.
if anyone has any type of interest in horror, this may or may not push you away from it or bring you closer towards it. I think
Mm.
because this is like
Mhm.
an extreme example, more intense than The Exorcist. I'd agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
And it does have that slow, deliberate pace to it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
Before it
Um,
turns the knob to 11.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like abruptly just like "fuck you"
Oh, yeah.
right in your face. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, are you getting involved in all your family drama? Well, fuck you. Here's a head rolling down towards you with ants all over it."
So, John,
Yeah.
with that
Yes.
said,
So with that said, this movie does so many things well. The initial scenes with the dollhouses, the miniatures, all of that is so cool, and it's so well done in
And
the
creepy.
film.
Do you
Dude,
find
when it
creepy?
zoomed in,
Yeah.
when it zoomed all the way in and then stopped, and then the guy walks in
Yeah,
and
it
the
was
door opens, I
fantastic.
was
It's a
like,
mind fuck.
whoa,
Yeah, it was fantastically done. And
totally.
think about this guy's first full film, and it's not like he's like operating on a massive budget or anything. This was impressive. The other thing I really loved, I loved how they use sound. So they have some of the good spooky horror music sound. And it still sounds modern. It doesn't sound too just the violin player like bleeding, but
What?
it's he's just going.
Oh, okay.
And he can't stop.
like there will be blood or something.
Yeah.
Just like
So, but they also use a lot of silence at the same time. That even makes it even more profound when they use silence. So there's a lot of good creepy music in there, like especially at the first and stuff. But then sometimes when some of the really nasty stuff happens, it's dead quiet, and that makes it worse. It makes it worse in contrast to having a lot of score there before. So sometimes I don't in films it's just like, oh, there's no score. That's awesome. I like that, right? But this uses the it goes both like loud, quiet, and sort of in between in different places, and it really works. In a pretty frightening way.
It lets the acting be the sound, like the
Oh,
scene
God.
right after the accident, and it's on his face, and he's calming himself down.
Right,
If they
right.
put anything
It's
else
quiet,
there, it
right?
would have been distracting from his
Exactly.
amazing acting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Really
dynamic. It's respectful,
It's,
right?
you
To
know.
the and you're right. So it lets these different parts shine through. It's like the mix. Okay, now this is the important part. So we're bringing the score down, or none at all. And you're right. The other thing is that the acting is fucking amazing.
Yep.
Really, really good across the board. Toni Collette in particular is
she's just so good at
amazing.
seeming like worked up.
yeah, right.
You know?
She's
Yeah.
also
She turned herself
like-
off between takes too, so it's not like she
Oh,
was in
really?
a state of hysteria. She's just that good of an actor where she can turn
God,
on.
She can
and
like
do
put
this.
it on and then go right back to normal.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
the way she
It's almost kind of like
displays-
kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Screen.
The sort of- yeah.
Are you
It
okay?
makes
Are
you
you all
wonder.
right? Like, are you as a person? Are you okay? Yeah.
Is there someone else in there? With
Yeah,
you?
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm
Am
afraid.
I talking to Tony?
Yeah, is it Tony or is it someone else? Come on, let's be real here.
No, but her portrayal of someone unhinged, someone who's been through an awful lot of shit, someone who does care about her kids but is messed up and jealous,
but
and
someone who's an
upset.
artist too,
Right,
right?
yes,
Like
right.
kind of
All of
crazy
this.
and
Right.
yeah, right.
all of that stuff works insanely well, and that, oh man, if this didn't go straight horror towards the end, if this because we can talk about
Don't
this in
say it, John.
discussion
Don't
more,
say it. I know what you're going to
Well-
say. Don't do it.
Well, I know. No, but it would have been it would have been Oscar bait. I mean, and
people were
I
pissed
think-
she didn't get an Oscar nomination
Yeah.
regardless of the ending of this movie.
Right,
Because
right.
she
That's fair,
would
yeah.
totally deserve it.
Is it because
Yeah.
of the genre
Yeah.
or?
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I would guess it would be, but I mean, it's still, all of it was amazing. I think that the acting's good, the cinematography, and the use of the props, the use of their characters. It's just so well done. I think that, and then when it gets to the horror parts are terrifying. There are
Yep.
certain parts that are so
Dude,
well done.
When he's lit on
first
fire,
time-
I was like, "What the
Right.
fuck is going on here?"
And we could go, well, why did
yeah.
he get lit on fire? But
Yeah.
not her this time. Well, fine, whatever.
Doesn't
but
matter.
still, it's a horror
Doesn't
film
matter.
at that point, and
Yeah.
you're not really supposed to be asking those kinds of
You're
questions.
crushed
but-
by the feeling
um,
of terror that you can't even think.
Yeah, right. But when it really goes off the rails too, that one, you see the one person fly by in silence.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was one of the creepiest.
Did you see her
moments
in the
I think I've
corner
ever?
beforehand?
No.
You
Ah,
did.
yes,
John,
I
you got to
did.
rewatch
I did.
it.
I
That was
did.
that was the
I
point in
did.
the theater that'll stick with me forever because
No.
they had the way they did it, and I read some articles about
You
this.
mean in the
afterward.
corner up on the ceiling, or
Right, in the
there
corner on the
there
ceiling.
In the
There was before
ceiling,
that.
yeah.
Before that, I thought there's a quiet flyby.
That was
that's
no, that was
really
she
sudden.
was
Is
in
that
the
after?
corner. Yeah, so
Oh,
you
maybe
see
I
her
didn't see her in the corner
So
there.
what happens is it's tricky because what the director did intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know, but I read an article about how it works so perfectly in that scene because that scene cuts to him laying in his bed in the dark, and the scene before that was bright. So your eyes
Okay.
are used to bright
Oh,
light.
so they're not adjusting.
So
Holy
they're
shit.
not adjusting. So I remember in the
Right.
theater watching that scene when it was a
Wow.
big screen, you couldn't see her in the corner
Oh my
until your
God.
eyes adjusted, and then all at the same time, people started fucking flipping out because they
Like,
all
oh,
started
shit.
seeing her
It's
at
right
the same
there,
time.
yeah.
Oh my God.
And it was
man,
so
that's
scary.
awesome.
And to think, and it's not like it's not like it's a creature. You don't even see a face, right? I don't think it's just a white robe, but the placement of it and the sequence of
Oh, and
events
it's right
is
in
one
the
of-
corner. It's like
it's
it's
one
like
of the
when you see.
scariest
You know what I
things.
thought it was?
Yeah,
It was like when you walk in a room and it's dark, and then you look in the corner and you see a spider.
Yeah.
And you're like, is that a spider? And then your eyes adjust. You're like, oh, it's a spider. It's a spider. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, right. It's exactly that.
It was
fucked.
that was masterful. That was just insanely good.
It was.
I thought.
I wonder if it was scarier for you, John, because you missed the corner part and you just saw
it was
crawling.
scary. It was scarier for me, maybe because I didn't see the corner part as well. And then when you just see the flash by and it's quiet and you just see the person flash by, like fly by basically.
Yeah.
And that
Like crawling
was
in the
terrifying.
air, kind of, for some reason.
Yeah, it was fucking terrifying. That like creeped me out to no end. So again, I think one of the most horrifying things I've seen in a film, and it's simple in a sense.
Yeah.
Of it's not like there's not like special, not like gross makeup, whatever.
No jump scare.
Sound.
It's
No
kind of a jump
sound.
scare, though. It is like a
but there's
silent
no
jump
sound.
scare.
Yeah, but it's completely silent,
Yeah.
I think, if I remember right in
It is.
that part. And that's just again fucking amazing. So
Yeah.
even up till that point, the way they portray like a really fucked up family with a really horrible history, the way Toni Collette plays it is so good. This film could have gone straight drama, and this could have been about psychosis or mental illness, and the fucking title makes you think it might be.
Right.
Right. And it would have played really well too. That would have been that the film could have continued in this direction and had it be imaginary.
Originally, it was written as a straight up drama, and his second movie
Yeah.
was going to be his first horror movie. But then,
Oh.
as you know, he has
Oh, he's
apparently
like-
this guy
And
has
he's
10
like,
scripts.
fuck it, we'll go horror.
Yeah, he said, well, he found ways to put horror in there, and he's found it like
Yeah.
more interesting because it changes it up towards the end, and he kind of like the idea of like
Yeah.
changing
It-
genre.
But I
it
mean,
does.
maybe
I mean-
that's why it's good, right? Because if you figure out that like they're writing the story first and
It
then
could
they
be.
get to horror, whereas like a lot of the horror people go like, we're starting with horror, and they
Right.
try to
Right,
make it
right,
as
right.
scary
That's
as
fair.
possible. They don't
Yeah.
really focus on like the fact that like, okay, we're gonna pick a character who's meticulous. She's an artist,
Right.
which lends herself to all of these things, right? These
Right.
creepy, is she sick? Is she not? And then you get to the horror stuff, and it's like the story was already there.
Right.
They just like add on to it.
And you could see it though. If he wanted to, he could have always played both ends a little bit. He could have always, if he wanted to, which a lot of movies will do this. They want to give you a sense of, is it all in her mind, whatever, because she's such an
and it
intense
does
character.
until the seance scenes, right?
Right. Until
Right,
you get there
right.
in the end, you're like, no
Right.
way. This is straight out
Yeah.
horror now. This
Yeah.
is not. But and
Now
it's
they're
interesting
now
that
they're
it does
asking
that.
me to really let go
Yeah.
and
Right,
just
right,
kind
right.
of like imagine that this
Yeah.
would happen and everything's kosher and everything's fine. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
but I had to like kind of give it to them because it was weird when she came in and the whole thing switched into seances and shit. And then you're like, oh, this is a cult movie. Interesting. Yeah. Right.
We're going
Okay.
there now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it, again.
But it's all in
and-
there. There's a lot of hints that it's going to go there
yeah,
previously,
yeah.
right?
Right. There's the light, the little light thing, and
Right, and
like,
her
there's a
the way
soul
she
or
talks
whatever.
about how like her brother killed himself when
right.
he was younger because his
Yeah.
mother was like putting people inside of him.
Right.
That whole
right.
thing when
Yeah.
she was in like therapy. That's
But again, you're even sort of there to sort of be like, yeah, this girl, sounds like like psychosis type
Right.
stuff or whatever, right? You're still willing
Yeah.
to think that's the direction it goes, and maybe it could be criticized for that, but it does the horror so well. It's like, well, goddamn, that's some of
I
the
know.
best straight out horror
Right.
anyway. So maybe it wouldn't be so good if they were the pure
Well,
horror
I mean,
parts wouldn't have worked.
and they
as
shot
well.
it. They shot it well, like and they had a color like profile that was dark and sort of oppressive, right? With like
sometimes it
lights.
was also really bright.
Yeah, like-
sometimes for a horror.
Yeah,
movie.
right. But there was those moments where like there was stuff that was really bright and seen, but the entire back behind it was all black and
Mhm.
dark, and they did a really good contrast. Well, I thought so.
Yeah.
Just the composition alone allowed for those types of things in the story to come through, and it really. I mean, this was one of the better ones, Denny, that you've ever assigned
agree.
to me.
This movie's incredible.
Yeah, it is damn good. And the practical effects were just good.
Yep.
I mean, they just were, and it was believable. And since they relied on the practical effects most of the time, when they had to add in things like the fire, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it was fine, and it worked perfectly. And I'm amazed at how well they can do fire now.
Well,
In,
the
like-
guy on fire was real.
But then like they add
had
in
some
all this
other-
extra shit,
right,
right?
yeah.
And it all like blends perfectly, and you don't really notice. Yeah, and there's just a lot of symbolism in the story. There's a lot of like gradual tension. It's just a good fucking movie, but scary as fuck. Like I'm not gonna say to anybody I know, hey, you should go watch this movie, unless you're like a movie nerd who wants to like that. I'll say, hey, you should watch Hereditary. But like if you're my mom or like someone normal, I'm never telling them to watch this movie.
I don't
on
know.
purpose.
This is the kind of horror where it's like, I don't know. The way it ends helps because if it was just a drama and that's the scene of, the whole setup of them going to the party, she has a nut allergy, like all this stuff they set up,
Mhm.
and then he gets high and, ends up killing his sister. And that the way that develops with him, the scene of him acting, Alex Wolff too, the older brother in this movie is almost as good as Tony Collette, if not equal. He just has less to do. I thought he sold
I mean,
some
he
of
just
the most
makes the
important
same
parts.
face the entire movie.
No way, dude.
Oh, I thought he was good.
I thought he was
I know. I thought he
amazing.
was good.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like his role was just sit there
Well,
and
he
look
was
dumb.
he was always pretty fucking miserable.
Just like look as
yeah.
dumb as you can in this scene, okay? Just stare at her and look
Aw.
dumb, And he's like, okay, no problem.
I don't know. The scene right
Yeah.
afterwards where he realizes he kills his sister, doesn't look back, drives home, and the shot, like everything about the shot where he comes home and goes upstairs and lays in bed, and the way the camera hangs on him as he's in bed, and you hear the parents
screams.
get up and
Fantastic.
realize, like that
Yeah.
by itself would be one of the scariest, most intense things I've ever seen in a movie. And that's
And-
kind of
And it was,
the beginning of it
what
all.
that was great too, and what I thought about later when we, they have their big argument and they, we start to see what their relationship is. Like, it makes sense that he would do that.
Mhm.
There were just so many things that happened in the movie where like it checked out from the setup that they had earlier in the film. And that was one of those things where like he would react that way. He's a stoner.
Mhm.
He's kind of dumb. He doesn't really speak up or not. And then
He's
him
also
and his
a-
mom
he's a
don't
kid.
like each
I mean,
other.
he's-
And
he's
he's
still
a kid.
Yep.
And he's
Right?
still, he's a high school kid, and his mom and him don't get along. And the dad doesn't talk about anything. He just shuts it all down. So it's like, it was perfect. There was so many of that. Many of those moments in the script, I thought that just like they finished, like the moment finished correctly, and it made sense, and it was believable, and it was like relatable. And I think as soon as you got those things, you're golden as far as having a good character that is a supporting character. But realistically, like if he wasn't doing what he was doing, she wouldn't have some of the reasons to continue to go into like almost craziness, right?
Right.
Because like he like pushed the plot along very well with just that one simple act of killing the sister. That was the whole catalyst to like everything else that happened next, right? So he was very important. It was just he didn't do much except look straight ahead and look
So
stupid.
disagree there.
Oh
Dude, the
man, he
scenes
just
where
looked, he had the same face every time
No.
except for when he was in the
when he cried
when
a
he was
lot.
like yeah.
There were the
yeah,
scenes where
man.
he was the evil self of him, and then there was the scene where he smashes his face in the table and freaks out in the classroom.
That was
an
different.
extremely memorable
Yeah.
scene.
Man, that was terrifying.
Yeah,
in
the way his
its own
face
way.
contorts and his arm goes
Yeah.
up, and then he just
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I thought
Yeah.
he did a great job. I
That
thought
was-
he did,
that was great.
I,
When
thought-
I didn't say he
like,
did a bad job.
when he said
I'm
he
just
had his mom
saying
to
he
stop
made the
when
face
she's
I know,
repeating
more often than not.
I know. I mean, he's subdued compared to Tony. He shows his emotions differently for sure. He is more toned down, but it still felt very authentic. The way he did it felt.
That's because he.
real.
It
Well, no,
seems
it
like
did.
he was depressed because he killed his
Yeah,
sister, right?
right,
And the
right,
mom
right,
was
right.
angry.
Yeah,
Well,
and
he
that
was depressed before.
Yeah,
You know what I
kind of.
mean? Like, yeah, he was depressed before, and I think he played stoner real well.
Mhm. So you guys didn't lose any momentum as the movie went absolutely insane towards the end.
No, I didn't think
No.
so.
That's great.
I mean,
Because I mean, I've heard, I don't know anyone who thinks this way, but I've seen reviews where people are like, once it gets super horror, it lost me. And I'm like, I don't know. I was already so
I don't know
invested.
about that.
It's not super horror for very long, though. I mean,
But
I don't
it
think-
peaks
yeah.
so fast. Like it goes
Yeah.
into horror. The whole movie is kind of a slow burn to
Yeah.
an extent. Like
Right.
it kind of slowly builds up to the accident scene, and then it kind of stays. I mean, it stays intense, but it's still slow
Right.
family drama.
Right, but once he starts seeing the flying people and we have the seance, I don't know.
It
what
goes
is that, like
bananas. There's like dead
15
people in his
minutes?
house. There's like
I
running
know.
around and screaming. Yeah, it's like
but
15
how long
minutes.
is that? Yeah, it's not long
Yeah.
where it goes full on horror and then ends. So it didn't overstay its welcome there. It was just frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't. And maybe you're tired. And again, it might be some people thought this movie was going somewhere and it didn't go there. With it sets the drama up so well for it not to stay in that lane might be weird, might be jarring for some people, I think. And maybe that's where they like, what? No, no, you. I don't know.
Now, I think for me, I was expecting it to go where it went later. So it was almost like for me, I was like, oh, okay, now we're into the like what I was expecting.
But we know,
so I was okay.
Also, but we know going into this film what people have said about it. Like, this is the most horrifying film ever. Blah blah blah. I don't know if you're going.
But don't you
into
think
this film
that would
cold,
meet from the
that'd be even more
decapitated
frightening.
child? I mean, that could be what people were talking about. Maybe.
Right. Okay, maybe. But it still feels pretty slow burn through there. I don't think it doesn't. Yeah. It's still more. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen a grief portrayed in such a amazing and just completely crushing way? Like
no,
the
that scene was really
with Toni
awful.
Collette when she was crying in her bedroom, like that.
Yeah,
nearly,
I don't mean
nearly
awful,
brought me to
bad,
tears
but
just
acting,
watching
but-
her
Yeah.
do that. Like, and I've seen this movie 4 times at this point. That's just really amazing acting. Give her the freaking Oscar, goddammit. Give her a nomination.
Yeah.
It's crazy what they don't consider.
I agree. I completely agree. That was, again, really hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what else, just one more thing. I think what also is scary is just like the idea that this family's a runaway train to hell, basically. You know what I mean? Like you can just see them all getting worse. And I think it's like not typical for a story to be accessible and also be like, yeah, these people are just going, they're fucked. They are so fucked. And you know they're fucked. I know they're fucked. Everybody knows they're fucked. And like you just have to like keep on going. And you're just like still glued to the screen. And things are just getting worse and darker and more, but yet you're okay with watching it and it's a great movie, right? But like, who's writing these stories very often? Not many, right? Where you've got like these really dark topics that, everybody goes through, which is like, death and family bullshit. But when it comes to this, like, I don't know, eerie devil stuff, definitely not typically accessible in the world that we're in, right? So I thought it was a feat to like experience this kind of information in a way that it showed us and like not be upset about it. Or like not be in relation to something that you've had in your life with someone dying. Or,
that's kind of
or
the good thing, right? It's like, hey,
you know,
maybe her little sister died, but at least you're not trying to be possessed by the evil demon Padmon or
right.
Paimon.
I'd rather be dead, I
Yeah.
think, I think I'd rather be, right, exactly.
That last song, when he's like, that whole ending sequence after she saws her head off in the attic and he jumps out the window, and then there's a floating body to the treehouse, and all the dead bodies are like praying to the god. And he puts
that
the
was
crown
some
on.
fucking weird
The
shit.
music during that part was really good. And that song was from the 1700s. It was written for the, let me get this piece of trivia here. Colin Stenson. Do you guys know that name?
Mm.
He's a saxophonist. Saxist. I don't know what the name of it. He plays the saxophone. That's what he usually does. He's toured with the Arcade Fire, Bon Iver, TV on the Radio, Tom Waits, all these famous people.
Oh, wow.
He has a solo career. He did the soundtrack for this movie because he does like weird solo avant-garde stuff. And Ari Aster the director listens to him a bunch, and it kind of like helped him piece together the movie in his head, just listening to his music.
That's awesome.
So he needed to get him for it.
I love that. I love that.
But for the last song was the first thing he came up with. Ari Aster sent him the Zodak the Priest is the name of the song. 1727, when it was written by George Frederick Handel for the coronation of King George II. And he sent him that song, and he creepified it, redid it with digital stuff. And that's the song that plays at the end of the movie when he's, the very last sequence of the movie itself. Super old.
I love when that happens, in the Hollywood world where they're like, the person that wrote it, directed, and everything just happened to like listen to somebody while they were making their art. And then they're like, but now I need them. And then that person gets work out of it because like it's just something that was organic. And
that happened to The Shining when Kubrick was
that.
editing the movie to like avant-garde, whatever that, jazz stuff. And they had somebody else writing a soundtrack. But as soon as he had the edit, he's like, nope, what I was listening to fits so well. We're going to throw away this thing that we paid for and use the shit that I was editing it to.
Wow.
Which
is great.
Just,
sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah. Editing is important. You could fuck up a tone of a movie with bad editing.
Oh yeah,
easily.
I mean you can ask Ryan all about temp tracks and his hatred for them. He doesn't use them
because it fucks with your idea
he
of what
just
you want.
edits without the music a lot because a lot of the temp tracks will get you a whole vibe, and then you take it out and you try to get something else in and it doesn't work, and you end up recutting the whole thing anyway. So it's like you cut it to your pace and then you figure out how to put stuff to it, and that's the better route.
Unless you're Wes Anderson. Then you just make music
Unless
videos.
you're Wes Anderson. Well, and then, you got the best of the best songs ever to put in your movies.
That's right.
And that's exactly, the hardest part for most, is paying for that.
Have you
Oh, by the
watched
way,
those
just out of
Netflix
a
shorts?
random thing, I don't know if you guys ever seen it. You must have these, right? The Wes Anderson books that are out for every movie that he has. It has all the stuff from the movie in it.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I have a friend
it's
who has
awesome.
every single one of them, so I've been
Dude,
for some
I
reason.
looked through them all. They're so cool.
Yeah.
All the little fucking like pencil drawn storyboards that he does for every single scene, and it's like, oh man, I was blown away with looking through it. Anyway,
Have you
something to
seen
get.
the short films that he dropped on Netflix? Like
I did
Henry
not watch
Sugar
them.
it's really good.
We
So
almost watched them
Netflix,
yesterday.
I gotta say,
Oh.
I have unfortunately removed myself from the Netflix ecosystem due to I cut off a credit card because I lost it, so I had to get a new one. So the numbers got refreshed, and so I didn't pay the bill. And then when I wanted to repay the bill, they went up in price. And then my mom was like, "I'll pay for it for a while." And then she was like, "Damn, they raised my price again." And so we removed it.
Yeah.
I have my girlfriend who lost her account too due to some other thing, and we're like, "We're not paying for this, so I'm off Netflix." Isn't that crazy?
Oh, yeah.
This gotta
Netflix
be the
doesn't
same.
care. They just added the most people they've
No,
added.
I don't think
last
so.
Quarter.
I
They
think
have.
their
last quarter, they added like 20 million people.
But that's because they cut everybody off. So like
Right.
the people had to get.
You had
the
to get your
fucking-
and my parents
yeah,
had to
right,
get their
you had
own
to get your
Netflix.
I
Yeah.
know exactly right. So they were smart, but fuck them. They raised their price a lot. Anyway,
Anyway, what are we talking about? Scary
Yeah.
movies?
Yeah, about
Hereditary.
Scary movie.
Yeah.
Given what anything else you got, TC? What did
that's pretty much it.
The seance scene where freaking Toni Collette gets possessed by the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
One of the
Mhm.
creepiest things I've ever seen.
Yep.
When she starts freaking out, saying like, "Who's mom?" and everyone's
Yep.
screaming at them to stop it.
Oh, yeah, that was
Yep.
terrifying.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
That was
Didn't like that one bit.
nope. Didn't like it. Didn't
I
like
had
it.
I had one big laugh.
Oh yeah,
Not big, but well, it wasn't funny, big, but it was a very
it was an audible laugh. You
It was
Yeah,
audible, like when she's like at that group and she's talking about how she doused her kids with gasoline, but she wasn't going to set them on fire, as if it's just sort of a thing you do.
It's just like no big
Yeah.
deal. That's just what we're gonna talk about. Yeah, like I covered
Yeah.
up. I covered them in lighter fluid, but
I
hey.
I was there with the match, but I
Yeah.
woke up. You know,
I
and
mean,
this is
everything
like-
was fine. You know, I mean, yeah. I mean, they're a little mad, but what can you do,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, I thought I just thought that the sound they had very, you touched on it a lot, Denny, with just the silence and the sudden loud noises and just like that dynamic. They had that down. And they matched that with the visuals pretty well. I loved the story just because it had sort of like, that exploration of fate, trauma, grief, all the stuff that's really hard to, to do really without bogging down the viewer or reader with just, depression, right? I mean, like it's hard to go into those topics and do it well with an entertaining, result. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I had. But there was like a handful of scary moments that we've pretty much hit. But it's the decapitation, Annie's discoveries, the seance scenes, Peter's breakdown. Those were
the
my
entire
those
last
were those,
15 minutes.
the final ritual. Yeah, right. And then that attic scene with the mother. I definitely was like, oh no,
They hung on it so long.
Oh my god, I know, and I just
sound of the bone.
I know,
It was
I know.
so much.
I know. Anyway, that's.
And I thought the
think that's
naked
all I
old
had
people
written
in the
down here.
house was also pretty damn creepy, even though that's been done a bunch before for some reason.
Mm.
Like there's other things that have been done. Scary things in the corner. That's been done a bunch in horror movies, but I don't know. This movie is different because of the way it gets there or something. I don't exactly know. Watching it 4 or 5 times, it's just the ride
It's
is intense.
still creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing else to add. I think you guys hit on everything pretty good. I would just heartily disagree that I would definitely recommend, as I did, force you guys to watch this. I'd recommend this to other people. just with a warning that it's going to be super intense.
Yeah, I guess if you preface it with, how do you feel about really scary movies? And they're like, love them?
Yeah.
Go
like,
for
let's
it.
see.
If they're
let's
like,
see if you're-
I'm not a huge fan, you say, never mind.
yeah.
But also you have to, when you couple it with the intense drama, it's not just like, there might be people that are like, oh, I'm a big horror fan, but the horror has an element of a lot of horror. And there's some horror that tries to be too realistic, but there's an element of fantasy about horror in a lot of horror films.
You don't think
and
this tries
film-
to be too? I mean,
No,
this is
no,
as realistic
this goes
trying
there.
as it could
This
be.
goes there. This
right?
goes there for sure. But the emotions and everything feel so real up to that point. It sort of it puts you in this mindset of seriousness that when it does get to the out and out nutso horror stuff, it still has a weight to it that it wouldn't have otherwise if this was the way the whole film was. And
Who
so
would have
I
thunk
think
it?
that
Character
does-
development is required in all genres of movies, right? It's so hard to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah,
I think it's just hard to write. Is all it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
that's probably true.
exactly. It's hard to have a real story around.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some trivia for this one. What do you guys think?
What you got? Sure.
Wow, trivia.
Trivia. So there was a kind of a, what are they called? EPK, is that what they call it? A little packet, little info packet that you send.
Uh-huh.
Is that what that's called?
Uh-huh. I think I remember
Electronic-
from our days. Yeah,
from,
from
trying to sell records and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a little promo
Yeah.
package.
Little promo
electronic
package.
press kit.
There you go.
That's
Yep,
what it
EPK.
is. Yeah.
So they had
Yeah.
one of those attached to the special features. That was pretty much all they had, which was kind of a bummer, but they had interviews with all the actors and the director and stuff. It was called Cursed, The True Nature of Hereditary. Ari Aster, the director, said that he watched Carrie at a young age and it traumatized him. And that's the reason he loves horror movies.
Wow.
He also named a movie, which I'm going to watch now. It's called The Cook, the Thief, the Wife, and Her Lover.
I've heard of that.
Have you? Okay.
The cook, the thief, her wife, and his lover. Or
Yeah.
something. Don't they? Like, I think it's like there's a cannibalism thing going on there. I don't
Oh,
remember,
really?
but maybe I don't know.
I'd never heard of it. It was made in
Anyway.
1989, and Ari Aster says that it's not technically a horror movie, but it freaks him out the same way a horror movie would. And he showed it to the cast and crew before filming this movie to get like the tone from that one. So it's an influence there. Toni Collette at the time was saying to her agent she had no desire to do any horror movies, any heavy dramas. She just wanted to do comedy because she had been doing the drama and heavy stuff for so long. And then her agent sent her this script anyway, and she read it and loved it. And when she was talking, she was basically like, fuck you, agent. I have to do this now because it's so good. Because the
Damn.
script was so good. This guy, Ari Aster.
And then what happened? Nothing?
Then she took the role and was amazing in this movie and should have won an Oscar for it.
Wow. I thought maybe she fired the person.
No, she was kind of laughing about it, but then like gave the middle finger to be like, fuck you, my agent.
Oh.
Ari Aster wrote 10 screenplays. He used to write a lot when he was growing up, and he had 10 screenplays in his pocket before he made this one. So he has 7 more, I guess, because he's made 3 movies so far that he's going to direct. So all of the movies
Wow.
he's going to make were movies he made before he directed this movie. He wrote before this movie,
That's pretty cool.
which is kind of weird.
No.
You don't think so?
No, because I mean, if you figure if you're a writer that like writes frequently and likes to do it, they just write
Well,
and then they collect stuff
but
and
don't you
then
think
they
that
hope
would-
that it will go somewhere someday.
But don't you think that if you were a writer and you like to write so much that you would continue writing and you wouldn't rely on your older stuff to make?
No, I don't.
No?
I think a lot of times people, because I've seen it in this industry a lot where like you just move on to the next type of thing. So like you'll be a writer and then you'll start as the writer and then all of a sudden you'll become a director. And then you're like, oh, I don't really need to write anymore because I want to direct.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
This is
you're
where
a
the money
producer.
is. I'm making
Yeah,
tons
and
of
then
money.
and then all of a sudden you're a producer, and then you're like, wait a second,
Yeah.
I don't need to be doing directing or writing. I can just pay someone else to do this. So I think you just kind of graduate up past it, and I also think people change over time.
Yeah.
With the film industry specifically because there are so many departments. So a lot of the best directors and filmmakers are the ones that have done other things in other departments before they get to the place that they're at because they understand the entire process fully.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's weird. I just think it's when you're not working regularly on set and production and all this other stuff, you have time to sit and write. As soon as you're on set and you've got productions in play, you don't have time to sit and write. So I think a lot of that shifts as you get better and better and bigger and all that as you go in your career. So I don't find it to be strange, but I do find it to be pretty damn cool because being able to write 10 scripts in general is
before you even get one going.
Before you
right?
do anything going is pretty impressive that
Yeah.
you stuck along with it that.
But it kind of makes me worried because he probably, I would imagine you pick the best screenplay first, and then you pick the second best screenplay second, and you keep picking the best available one as you go along. So by that, his movies are going to get worse and worse.
No, I
until
don't
he
think so.
makes
Again, I
movie
don't
number
think
10.
so because, and I'll quote
Because
Ryan.
he gets
on
better and
this.
better at making movies.
No, I'll quote Ryan on this. We can fix shitty. So like you can fix what you have, but if you don't have it, you can't fix it. Right. So like the fact that he's got those things now that he's so refined and polished and understands all of it and has a movie out and all this
I'm
stuff.
not sure
he's
he
going to
is.
know how to.
He's
going to know
more
how
and
to
more
go back.
unhinged.
I think he's going to know how to go back though to those other scripts and tweak and make them better because he knows what is necessary for the final product.
I don't think he does.
So,
the way he's given a lot of
No?
creative control, and he seems to be spiraling. I don't know. So Midsummer was his second movie. It's the only movie I've ever seen. I saw it opening night in the theaters, and people walked
no
out.
good.
Opening night horror movie. They knew what they were getting into. People walked out of the theaters to specific scenes. I had never seen that for an opening.
So now
night.
nobody's telling him to get in line. That's the problem.
But I thought the scenes that people walked out during were amazing. They
So
were
then they're
extre-
not. So there you go. I mean, you can't listen to them. Who
But
knows?
also,
I hate
the
people. They
third
don't
one,
know what they're doing.
The third one,
right?
Beau is Afraid, has Joaquin Phoenix in it, and it was over 3 hours long, and it got mixed
Ooh.
reviews because it's
Yeah.
a very strange.
So
movie.
he's getting less and less accessible.
Yes.
As we go here.
I mean, Midsummer is worth watching if you like horror. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for you guys. It's definitely not as refined as this one, but it is pretty damn scary. And it's like the only horror movie I could mention that takes place entirely in the sunlight. There's no dark scenes in the movie. It's all like in the daytime and like a nice sunny field sort of thing. And it's terrifying. So that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
It's about like they travel to this like European country. There's some like realistic family death stuff going on right from the get-go. And then they travel to this European country where there's this like spring festival, and all of the people in the town like live underground basically during the winter and try to survive. So they are crazy people. And then all this crazy ritualistic shit starts happening at the festival.
Oh
And
boy.
it's pretty damn scary. So he definitely like has the tone of this is going to be fucked up and realistic, and you're going to be unsettled, and it's not going to be
I
very
know.
fun.
Well, and Midsummer had really did uncomfortable young people relationships really well too.
You saw it, John? You saw that one?
I saw it a long time ago. I thought I sort of remembered being somewhat impressed with the awkwardness of their relationships and how bad they were communicating.
I mean,
and things like
Florence
that.
Pugh was amazing, and I think
Yeah.
that like helped her get. She has like a huge career now, and it started with
Yeah.
that movie. But the boyfriend, I thought, was kind of a bad actor
Eh,
throughout. I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't buy it. This one, it was like I was fully engaged in the acting. And that one, I was kind of like,
Yeah.
some of this teenage stuff is a little made for TV. Like the Friends were kind of. I didn't quite buy it.
yeah, I can see that too. I just sort of I think it was a good. Maybe it wasn't as a successful attempt clearly, but the idea of focusing on those relationships in sort of a more realistic way, more of a drama way. This film is very similar in that tone. Like Midsummer, very much drama all the way through for a good over half of it, and then it gets weirder and weirder. But yeah,
Well, it's interesting to know. I mean,
I still thought
it's
Midsummer
not
was
typical,
interesting.
but
it was worth watching. I thought.
Yeah, definitely
But,
worth watching if you like horror. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for UTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
Because for some reason I walk away from this one thinking there's like something besides horror you can take away from it, but Midsummer it doesn't feel that way. I don't know if that's just wrong or what, but
Oh, I'd be interested to know if he like wrote it as a horror,
he did.
whereas the last one, so maybe that's the issue for him is he's better
So
at
that one
writing
starts
realistic.
with basically the scene where the sister gets decapitated in this movie. It starts like the first 5 minutes are kind of that scene in Midsummer. So it starts there and then goes to the horror, and it gets to the horror a little quicker, I think.
Huh.
But still kind of a slow burn because you don't know exactly what's going on for a while.
Hmm.
But anyway, enough
Interesting.
about that one.
Yeah.
So Alex Wolff Alex Wolff went method for this movie. He had everyone calling him Peter the entire shoot. And on the day they wrapped, he stood up in front of everyone and he introduced himself as Alex. What a fucking weirdo. He also wanted the scene where he smashes his face on the desk, he wanted to break his nose in reality during that scene.
Oh God!
So he asked the director, he's like, don't put padding. I'm willing to like smash my face into a desk as hard as I can and
God,
smash my
why?
nose. Because he's crazy. I don't know. It's fucking nuts.
That
Ari Aster
is
was like,
crazy.
we're not doing that. We're not
Yeah,
going to do that.
Like, you
So
say
no.
you want that now, but I can just see the lawsuit coming.
Yeah, right.
I
And
mean-
like, not to mention, if you fuck it up, we can't do any more takes.
Right.
So
That's right.
and
don't
you're not
do
going to be
that.
there for the rest of the
Right.
shoot. What are you thinking?
Right. What are you talking about?
So what happened is they put foam on the desk, but it was a hard desk underneath, and he committed so hard that he smashed his face into it, and he dislocated his jaw doing it.
Oh God.
See, and the guy and the director goes, "Told you,
Yeah.
you can't have no. We gave you padding and you fucked your job.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, so-
yeah, wow.
Yeah,
How
he
did-
already
like, so
had
what
that
did they
injury. He already had that, so it was like, I guess once you already dislocate your jaw, it comes dislocated more easily afterwards.
They put it back in on
They
set.
Put it back in, yeah. And that shot is in the movie. So when you see him bouncing his face off and then running back
Oh.
screaming, his jaw is dislocated in that shot.
Oh,
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's not worth it.
Alex Wolff was describing an easy day. So it was a 30-day shoot, and it was a very intense shoot for everyone, as you can imagine from the intensity
30
of the
days in
scenes.
a row.
Yeah.
Holy
So a light
shit.
day of shoot, he said his two shots were the two parts of the scene where he got to watch his sister's head roll at him and turn into a ball. And then later on, he's like the hands come from above and try to tug his head off. And that was an easy day. He was struggling in bed with someone trying to rip his own head off. Easy day on set.
I mean, that was a creepy shot, wasn't it? When I went to the ball, I remember being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that was great." I wasn't expecting that.
All the dead bodies in this movie look so real. The head
They
and his
do.
body with the
They do.
ants. Ugh.
Oh, the ants. Ugh.
Does the pole shot almost strike you as whimsical?
The
The
pole
way
shot.
the way he's driving when he's driving to the party, and the film decides to focus on that pole that they're going to hit on the way back. It's almost cute.
It tells you. Yeah.
All right. It's almost.
I
Yeah,
think it
it's
does.
like-
It attempts to make you not think about the pole as a weapon of death because it shows you the little
Yeah.
cult symbol on the pole. So
Yeah, I
maybe you
guess
can
so.
think
So
like
it's kind
he's
of distracting you from
passing
that.
past like
Yeah,
a point where he's
I
safe
guess
or something.
I didn't quite notice the cult symbol. I think. But,
Oh yeah, it was etched into the pole.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I agree though. It wasn't like it focused on the pole too much where I also knew something bad was going to happen with the
Yeah.
pole. When
They
they,
like this pole here.
yeah.
There's a pole out in the middle of nowhere.
Hey guys, just look right here at the ball.
I
Yeah.
rewatched the new Mission Impossible movie, and there's a scene where there's a bunch of like government guys. Have you guys seen it yet?
I
The
have
new one. It's pretty good. But there's a scene where they're like in a government building, and it keeps cutting to the face of this dude that you have no idea who he is, and it keeps cutting to his face, and it ends up being Tom Cruise in a mask. And I was just like,
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
of course the nobody in the corner who
Right.
hasn't been introduced is just
is
in
going
a
to be
lot
him.
of the shots. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like that, you know.
I
not
did
subtle.
actually. I was thinking the Maverick one. I have not seen this one.
Oh,
Is
it's
it,
good.
was it worth seeing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Lots of really good.
I the stunts and everything. The actions. Are
The
really good
action
as
is
well.
really good.
Yeah.
The plot is it's fine. It gets you from
It's-
action scene to
It's
action
a
scene.
popcorn movie.
Yeah.
It's like what it's supposed to do, right?
They actually strapped the actor who plays the daughter, Miley Shapiro or Millie Shapiro, one of the two, the Charlie girl. This is her first movie. She actually won a honorary Tony for playing Matilda in a Broadway play. So
Oh,
she was
nice.
doing Broadway before this.
She's in a band now too. I think.
Oh really?
It's kind of cool.
It's called After X Class. All one word with an X between after and class.
Oh.
I haven't heard anything. It's not. They sound pretty. It sounds like they're pretty indie. I couldn't really look them up too much.
But she did her own stunt. They strapped her to a car and they did 30 miles an hour of her hanging out the window. So that was a real stunt. And she said it was fun because it felt like a roller coaster. Ari Aster had a 75 shot list from the get-go. And Toni Collette said he was the most professional director she had ever worked with. And she
Wow.
has worked
Wow.
with M. Night Shyamalan. She was in freaking The Sixth Sense. So that's saying something.
Mr. Professional
Exactly.
there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But she said that he had the entire movie edited in his head from
Before
the
it even
onset.
started.
Yeah. Which was
That's a good writer.
right.
You know what I mean? He's a good writer. He's
Yeah.
got the story set up. in
And he
his
knew
head.
exactly what he wanted.
and
they
he
would
know
do the
and he knows what he
takes.
wants to see for each scene.
And it was
Yeah, that's
easy.
awesome.
And like, so she said it was both easy and challenging for them because they knew what they needed to get, but it was hard because they needed to get that exact specific thing.
Right. Right.
So it was kind of
right.
like, but she liked it.
I mean, you can imagine that Wes Anderson's like that.
yeah.
'Cause
All
he's
right.
got it
You want to
fucking
say this
drawn out.
monotone,
Yeah.
just monotone
Yeah.
as possible and say, and whisper it and whisper every single line. That's Wes Anderson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. and look at this notebook. You see how on the second image I drew in pencil, you see how he's holding it? Do it that way.
If you don't, we're doing it again.
That's right.
Because I says we is. This is Willem Dafoe.
Imagine if that's how he talked. Yeah. every time he's telling you your motivation.
So they tried to, since this was all, storyboarded basically, he had all the shots he wanted. They were looking at houses in Utah to shoot it in. There was a lot of like location shoots. They kind of decided after a while of that it would just be cheaper to build all the interior shots in sound studios in a soundstage in Utah, just because like the financial part of it. Plus, they realized that they needed to do a lot of work to coordinate the miniature stuff with the actual house stuff, since they did actual cuts between the real set and the miniature set.
Oh wow!
So that would be a lot harder to do with the house that had like restrictive, ceiling heights or whatever. Plus, some of the shots they had required like removed walls and things like that. So it was just easier and cheaper to build all the interiors in a sound studio. The chalkboard scene where the thing was writing on the chalkboard was practical. They put a tiny little magnet in the center of the chalk and had a magnet on the other side of the table and dragged it around.
Oh, nice.
It was pretty hard to get it to do it smoothly. Smoothly in terms of like the chalk movement as well as the writing, because it wasn't like a flat piece of chalk, right? It had like a magnet in the center of it. So it could have looked shitty, like there was a hole in the middle of the chalk. That was just a tough one to get. This movie's trailer was accidentally shown before a screening of Peter Rabbit in Inaloo, Western Australia, back when that movie was out.
Whoops.
Parents and kids ran out of the theater screaming.
Oh my God.
And the theater gave them all a free ticket. Isn't that nice of the theater?
That's nice.
That'll fix it.
Yeah.
I want to go back and watch the trailer.
Mommy, why did his face have ants on it?
Yeah. I want to go back and watch the trailer just to see how
like
scary.
What was in it?
It was apparently scary enough where people ran out of the theater screaming.
I mean, they probably had a cut of some guy on fire.
Yeah.
Right? They had the cut. Of,
yeah, that was definitely in the trailer.
Yeah, that was definitely in it, right? Because it's like such a big
Her head
character.
upside down, banging on the door to the ceiling.
Right. That's right. And then the grandmother like laughing with the people and like, oh, Jesus Christ.
They intentionally showed the daughter, Charlie, a lot in the trailer, and they didn't mention anything of her death.
Right.
So that was very surprising.
Even though she was out of the movie, really.
Right. She was in there for like less than a third of the movie. She was out.
No, it did feel like she was going to be like this is going to be the girl is the crazy girl. That's what this is.
100%. The subversion was pretty good there as far as who the protagonist was. It was definitely,
Movies need to do that. What is wrong with movies? Like almost every trailer now, I'm in the theater sitting there with my ears plugged and my eyes closed, humming a song in my head so I don't hear it, because they show you the entire fucking movie. They show you like the second act plot turn in the trailer. You're like, so what is the point? Like once you know the problem that they have, you know how it's going to resolve, and there's no reason to watch the movie anymore.
Right?
Like, why do they do that? I don't know.
Well, because there's only so many stories in the world. So like,
is that
usually,
true?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's like 6 story structures that almost 99% of stories fit into.
Oh,
so
really?
like. Some of the problem
which one was this one?
Just,
which of the 6 was this one?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Are there like nicknames for all 6, or are they kind of
there's I'll look them up. I have them all written down. I just don't have them memorized. But
okay,
it's on my website.
Was this a Back to the Future, or was this a Jaws? Which one was this one?
I don't know. Yeah. I'll see.
This might have been a 2001 Space Odyssey, where it's a slow burn, slowly turning to horror, and then a really fucked up last 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This was the 4th A24 movie to get a wide release. There was a time, believe it or not, where A24 was an indie studio that not that many people knew about. The Witch was the first one, came out in 2015. Free Fire came out in 2016 and made $2 million at the box office. Oh, no. That's not very good.
No.
Then It Comes at Night came out in 2017. And then this movie came out in 2018 and made $80 million domestic on a $10 million budget. It was the highest grossing A24 movie for, as I said, the next 4 years. It's still number 2 right now. Hugely successful movie. Kind of allowed them to start releasing more movies widely afterwards, because, influx of cash, always good for business.
Yeah.
Did you guys get that Annie's mother likely tried to summon Payman and her brother. No, it was Ellen's son. So it was Annie's brother killed himself when he was 17. And the scene at the therapy was she was kind of talking about how the mother was making him feel like he had people inside of him. And the suicide probably wasn't a suicide. It was probably a failed attempt at getting payment.
Trying to get to go into the body.
And the brother's name was Charles, and the daughter's name is Charlie. And then you have all the storyline about how the grandmother wanted her to be a boy. So it was like the suicide was failed, and she was younger than 17. So she pressured the mother into having another kid, which is why there was a big age difference between the two. It was because her brother didn't,
But see, that's such a deep storyline.
Yeah.
That's such a deep.
It's in there.
Yeah.
And Ari Aster actually wrote backstories for every single one of these characters.
Oh, yeah. You have to.
Yeah, like deep backstories. And Alex Wolff said that they shot so much that the original cut could have been over 3 hours long.
Wow.
And this movie was over 2 hours long, which is very long for a horror movie.
But I didn't notice.
No.
I had no problem.
No boring
it
scenes.
moved fast.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Right.
So TC, one of your complaints about The Exorcist was that Ellen Bernstein was at 10 for the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear that come out of your mouth for this one. I'd say Toni Collette kind of goes up and down as the movie goes along, but she certainly gets to 10 pretty early on in the movie.
She does. She does, actually.
The crying
right,
scene where her
daughter
daughter dies is 11. I'd say that's an 11 out of 10 right there.
Yeah.
But you thought it was pretty, flawless, maybe, since there's no complaints there?
I think, no, you know what it was is that she had a much better character to work with, because the character was like, it makes sense that she was up to 11, but then she was crazy. So the next day she could be happy, and that's fine. Whereas the mother was just like, all I have is a scared mom to work with here. And like, that's it. For every single shot she's in, she has to be scared mom. Whereas, Toni Collette gets to be like crazy creative artist, and then nutcase, and then upset. And that like works because she's that person,
You've heard it here first, everybody. TC says Toni Collette's got the best horror movie performance of all time, overtaking Ellen Bernstein.
Sometimes I get myself into corners I can't get out of.
I would agree, because Exorcist was a really long time ago, and it's impressive how it holds up. But I would say this movie is probably not only the scariest movie, literally, like I had friends who stopped watching horror after watching this movie, but the performances, Toni Collette and Alex Wolff I couldn't name a better horror movie performance than those two's performance in this movie. And it's not even close.
And dude, the performances are only as good as the story. And the story is well written, well thought through, and it touches on everybody's fears and everybody's, sadness when it comes to, family grief. It's good shit, man. It really was.
So you might have thought that it was pretty original about the, John saw it coming, but who knows, but the daughter getting decapitated. But it was taken from a real story about two drunk guys driving home at night, and the passenger was sick and vomiting out the window and had his head hanging out the window, and the driver swerved, and the friend got decapitated by a guy wire on a telephone pole, which is one of those stabilizing wires. And the driver was so drunk that he didn't even notice it happened, went home, parked his car, got up, went to sleep, didn't realize his friend was dead until the next day.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
That's terrifying.
It's absolutely horrible.
And with that, would you put this in the top 250?
I should have got the one for last, huh?
That would have been a good whatever. Yeah. Can I go now?
Yeah.
Moral of the story is keep your head and your dog's head in the fucking car window.
They had a, what do they call it? Animatronic puppet of Charlie built for the decapitation shot. They were driving the car for that shot 60 miles an hour. The animatronic puppet had a collapsible inner skull, and they got the shot on so there wasn't any track or anything. The stunt driver had to drive 60 miles an hour and clip the head perfectly while not hitting the camera. And it was a pretty hard shot. They tried to get it on a track, but they ended up not being able to do it. So they were giving the stunt driver a couple of tries to do it, but he got it on the first take. And they only used a couple of frames from that shot because it was too disturbing to keep more of it in the movie. So this movie had restraint, believe it or not. They were like, this is too fucked up. We got to keep it quick. The scene where Steve set himself on fire, they had to go around and fireproof everything on set. So that was done towards the end of production. So that was real fire. They built a prosthetic neck for Toni Collette during the head sawing scene. And that was piano wire she was supposed to be sawing her head off with. There was a shot earlier, right before that, where the piano was destroyed as Alex was running through the house. So there was some continuity there where she ripped a piano wire out of their piano in their house and sawed her head off with it. Nice thinking. Good job putting that in there. The paint thinner scene was difficult because both Alex and Tony had to be drenched in water right before each shot during that scene, which comes across because they were wet. Ari Aster has a cameo in the movie. He is the guy who calls Toni Collette about the exhibit date on the phone. That's his voice. And the last piece of trivia, this is the kind of jokes that are in this movie. I don't think there's that many, but there's a joke hidden in this movie when the little girl, Charlie, is cutting the bird's head off at school. She's eating a Dove candy bar. Pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Ari.
pretty deep,
Yeah.
dude. We should have her eating a dove.
A joke
that's good.
for nobody.
Oh, my God.
Nobody
a little joke
will get that
that
joke.
nobody's gonna get
No.
except us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Would you put this in the top 250?
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
guys like the horror. Wow. That's,
Yeah.
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 And John,
Good stuff.
so with
Good
the,
one.
yeah, I guess I have no other questions. I do have a question, actually. So
What is your question?
what do we do next week? We are past Halloween. We are out of
I know.
October. We had another movie lined up for Halloween.
Yep.
I think it's still a good idea to do it because the next movie on the list is American History X, and going from this to that might just crush us.
That's fair.
I
So
don't
we
know.
have
It's been
something-
3 weeks since we watched Hereditary.
That's true.
So I'm all right.
That's
I'm
true.
my palate's free fresh.
go
I'm
either
ready
way.
for some,
I could go
some
either way.
evil.
How about we can save the one I was going to do, the fun horror movie. We could save that for next year since we're kind of out of the
Okay.
mood
That
for
seems-
the scary
that seems
stuff.
fair. Okay.
We could watch
And then
Strange
we'll-
Planes and Automobiles. Isn't that a Thanksgiving movie? They're trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and it's got John Candy and Steve Martin in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Is it? That's not on the list, is it? No.
Probably not.
What is it? Yeah.
Okay, so we're actually picking to watch American
Oh,
History X next
you
year.
want to actually want? I mean, we should think about a good Thanksgiving movie, though. We don't talk
Is
about-
there any other Thanksgiving? There's actually a horror movie called Thanksgiving coming out this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you ever watch
Oh.
Quentin Tarantino's double feature with
Yeah. I
Rodriguez?
didn't watch it, but know what you're talking about. Yeah.
There was fake horror movie trailers in between the two movies, and one of the fake trailers was called Thanksgiving, and it was the funniest one. But they're actually making a movie based on that trailer this year.
Nice.
Yeah,
Huh.
and it's coming out this month. So hey,
Cool.
combine October and November. No, I don't. It looks terrible. We probably shouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're deciding to watch American History X next week.
Yeah.
Bite
Bite the curve.
Why would anybody decide to watch this movie?
Bite the curve.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds
All right.
good. That's what we'll do.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
Sweet.
All right.
Talk to you guys
Talk
later.
next week.
All right. Later, boys.